All right, everybody. Here we go with another episode of Making It Rain here with Randon and Joe. How's it going, Joe?
I'm doing real well, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. And like we had some other things planned, and I just thought that you and I should just get on here so I can see your beautiful mug, man, and we talk some
Why?
hockey.
I'm not too shiny, am I?
You look like you just put some turtle wax on there, my man. So no, it's been good. How you been in the new house? What's going on with that?
Good. I think so far every time we've done one of these, I'm in a different setup, but it'll get there eventually. So getting my main day job work, kind of that office type setup before I get everything else going. But good. So now that we've got some of like the big stuff, it's just like slowly. And party is like you want to get this done, you want to get that done, but then you're like, oh, if all goes well, we're here for 30 years. So really, you don't have to rush into everything.
Yeah, we can just, stretch this moving out for the next 25. All we need is a TV and a couch. The kids can unpack their own things. That's all we need.
Yeah, the couch is fun. We're looking for a new one of those too. So yeah, loads of fun, but it's good.
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah, I just been, week one of football was here, so that was fun. I went out with all my buddies. Like they had this private room with like theater seats and everything like that. That had like 6 TVs in it, so that was just ripe with fun there. And then watching the Niners put up 40 plus points. Always nice to see your team score that many times. So it was good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to see that. The Giants look like absolute garbage. So, which is par for the course. That's what I was expecting.
Well, they're easing in Saquon. Daniel Jones is who he is, but the defense looked decent. The defensive line at least.
Yeah.
So
I'll take it. Sure.
Well, they're playing Thursday night. You think they got the Redskins?
No.
I
couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you how little confidence I have in this team. I don't have confidence. I want to like Daniel Jones, and I want to like Saquon, but Saquon, they're going to ease him back in, as you said, and I don't think he's in tip top at the moment. So coming off a game where we got short rest, I don't know. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I don't know if maybe they'll win, but I think it's going to be ugly.
Hey, well, good luck to them.
Yeah.
I think you have a little bit of a chance with the Redskins not having Fitzmagic. He's out for a while, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. So speaking of games getting back in swing, we're gonna have the rookie tournament coming up. I'm pumped about that. I just bought Kings tickets for out here in Dallas. I'm gonna actually see the Dallas home opener. Family's coming out here, so it's gonna be my mom, my dad, and my 2 brothers and I going to the Dallas home opener to watch the Kings. So they're playing the Kings in the home opener. So we'll see how that works out. It should be pretty fun. Hopefully it is with how expensive it was, but it's a cool venue to watch a game in and everything like that. And it just kind of made me think about I have this baseball road trip thing I do every summer with my family, see a new baseball stadium and, kind of see the world via sports. And then I was like, man, I've only been to a couple venues for hockey. What would be like a particular venue that maybe you'd want to see a Kings game in, or just like that you'd want to just see in general, and like just for the atmosphere?
Man, for the atmosphere, I'll say Chicago is creeping up of late, but it's Montreal, and it's really not that close for me. Everything about that whole the atmosphere. You watch the games on TV, the music, the intros, the crowd, the Olays. Like I cannot get enough of it. They had some stretches in the kind of mid to like 2005, 2006, 2007. They had some runs there. It's loads of fun, and I am itching to get there. So that one is for sure one to get to. I mean, I've been to Toronto and a bit corporate, if you will. I was a little disappointed, but Montreal is the one I want to check off my list.
Well, then you better start learning some French, man, if you want to get the full experience. You gotta talk some crap in French to get there. I think for me, I've been to Chicago. That's one of the ones I had been to. Phenomenal atmosphere. Kings won on that one. I really would like to see one at MSG, Madison Square Garden. And
so
I've never been to that arena at all. It's supposed to be super nostalgic, so I'd like to go there.
Really cool, actually. I went there to see. It was funny. It was the Rangers are playing Tampa, and it was the first game back at the Garden. They had like this. It was the last home game. They honored Lundqvist, they had a video montage for like Dan Girardi, Ryan McDonough, and all those guys on Tampa. Like the whole stadium was like in tears
Yeah.
before up. It was intense, but it was a really cool atmosphere. I was going to ask you, like, what's your favorite building that you've been to, atmosphere wise, to see a hockey game?
I think like the game itself has like a lot to play in it. My first game ever, like being a new hockey fan, like I know that a lot of people don't know that I really wasn't a hockey fan growing up, and it really stemmed from the Vancouver Olympics, watching that and like wanting to get into the sport now that my playing career with baseball was over with. So I got a kind of a late jump on it. The first game that I ever saw was at Staples, and Quickie was coming back from an injury, and it was right after the 2012 season, so 2013, and like the whole crowd was like in anticipation, like, is Quickie going to start tonight? Like they activated him, is he going to be on the bench for one night or whatever? And like it was just palpable, and like going out to the bars beforehand, everybody was talking about it, like they wanted to see him, because in that year he got injured really early, so everybody was like, hadn't really seen him after he just dominated those playoffs. So that atmosphere was ridiculous. But I got to say, like the overall, like the funness of the game, and the atmosphere, and like I kind of like being a little bit of the enemy, talking some crap and everything like that. But watching the game in Chicago was ridiculous. Like the Sweet Carolines, and that game was like a 5-4 game, I believe, if I remember correctly. And it was just a really fun atmosphere. And I didn't get to sit that close because their stadium is a little bit more expensive, but even up in the upper deck, the seats were nice. And then like you're with the blue collar guys and everything like that. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would say Philly is intense. I mean, they live up to. I saw a Philly Ranger game, and Philly's intense. They live up to it. Boston is incredible atmosphere. I've seen the Kings there a couple of times. I don't know if you remember that Kobe pulled the Forsberg shootout goal on Tim Thomas. I was probably 8 rows behind watching that. I was almost fell out of my chair. So that one's been good. In Buffalo, I mean, I've been to a lot of Buffalo games. I always go watch the Kings there. I live an hour and a half away. And when they're good, it is rocking, that place. It is a hockey town, but they just haven't been good in so long that it's a dead zone. But it's a fun place to go when the team's good and they're buzzing. It's a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, I think for me, like the number one like goal for obviously would be to see a Stanley Cup clincher, and do that. But I think for me, just in general, like obviously, Joe can see it if you guys are not listening or not watching on YouTube. If you guys are just listening, there's a map of the world behind my head, where you like kind of scratch off the countries. And I'd love to go see, a World Championship tournament, somewhere.
Yeah.
Or I know the Olympic Games are a little harder to get tickets to, but the World Hockey Tournament, and especially if it was overseas somewhere, like next year it's supposed to be, or this year it was in Latvia, and obviously like with the COVID protocols, it was kind of locked down, but hopefully next year it's going to be in Finland. Like that would be super fun. Like go to a country you've never been to, especially countries that like hockey is their number one sport.
Yep.
You're seeing a game in Sweden, you're seeing a game in Finland, or, Russia or whatever. And like most of those countries, most of the fans speak English too. So like you would be able to like get all that culture, all that new food, bond over hockey, and then be able to cheer on the red, white, and blue and watch the USA try to dominate,
That would be, I mean, that's a dream for me on in multiple sports, frankly, to see an Olympics, or like I'm a big soccer guy, see a World Cup or something like that. But I will say one Cup final game I went to, my dad's a Bruins fan, and the year they won the Cup, we all kind of pitched in for Father's Day and got them tickets to the game. And I went with them, and we were literally like back. You could touch we were in the last possible row. They were playing Vancouver. Boston was down 2-0 in the series, and the first period I think was 0-0 after 1, and then it just all hell broke loose. I think Boston won the game like 7-1 or 7-2. Tim Thomas was pushing the Sedins. It was it was nuts, but it was an absolute blast. So really cool atmosphere to be at a cup final game. That was awesome.
Yeah, I would love that kind of stuff. And I just, I want to go see more things. I want to get more involved in the culture. And I think, seeing it abroad or seeing a final or obviously anything in the playoffs would be nice. And, hopefully that ends up happening. I'm just excited to see hockey again. So it's less than,
Seriously,
it's like a little over a month away. Families coming out, get a dust off the jersey and wear it. I think I'll probably go with the black Kopitar.
What's your go-to?
Kopitar is my favorite player just because he's been the most dominant since I've been there. And I just like his game. I like players that not only handle it in their own ice, but, they're relied upon in every situation, and they usually come to the bell, and rise to the occasion. And so, he's always been one of my favorites. I don't have a brown jersey. I think I might get a brown jersey this year. I know they're supposed to have a new alternate this year. And before he retires, maybe get a brown jersey just so I have it. Like, he was so dominant in that 12 run and has been a long time there. He'll have his number retired. And I think, to have that and maybe the alternate would be kind of a cool montage of maybe what could be his last season as a King. And so it would be something that would be kind of cool. So what about you? What's your favorite jersey?
I would say I got a purple Kopitar. And I'm like, I love the purple and gold. Big fan of them. And one of the first jerseys I ever had was one of the golds, Luc Robitaille. So that's kind of my staple.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a Kopitar. I've got a Kopitar black. So I would say it's probably either the Kopitar black or the Robitaille yellow.
Yeah.
It does. But I actually so Brown is from Ithaca, which is not too far from where I am either. And my buddy had a connection, and I actually I got a chance to get a picture with him in the cup when he brought it to Ithaca, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And fun fact, I played against him. Here's a claim to fame. Played against him. My dad was the coach. Thought it was a great idea for me to shadow him. I took 2 penalties. He had a hat trick. It did not go so well.
Invaluable lesson for you.
So, I'm doing a podcast here at Hawk Royalty in my basement, and he's prepping for training camp.
Say about equal skill for there, just equal skill. So, oh man, that's funny. I think that'd be kind of crazy. I played baseball against some pro athletes before, and it's just kind of crazy how you're like, man, you just like, oh yeah, I almost got this guy. Like, but he did hit a home run off me. Like I remember I played in a men's league down in San Diego. This was after my career, and Steve Finley just happened to show up to like the top end men's league. And the first at bat I threw, like I just like, okay, I know he could probably hit it away because I'm only throwing 82, but I'm gonna stay away from his wheelhouse. The fence at right field's like 280. Like if he hit a pop fly, that could be out of here. And like he just stepped almost like an inch away from the plate and pulled that outside pitch over the fence. And it was just like, well, he's played over, thousands of games or whatever. So like I can't like really be too mad at that.
You can put that one on your cap. You got a home run. Steve Finley hit a home run off you. There you go.
So, oh man. So we got games coming up. We got the rookie tournament coming in. Just remember, you guys can all, I think what they said is that no matter who is the Kings are playing, they're going to show it on their website. And I believe the team that they're playing is also going to show it on their website. So for some reason, one team is having a problem or something like that, it should be on all those. There's going to be, several games, and you're going to be able to see all these guys. And so, some previous players, some high-end draft picks, some invites, some guys that played on the the AHL last year, so you're going to see a new look at them and all those kind of things. I know we talked about some of the new toys, but we could potentially see one of the top lines from last year for the Reign, which would be Byfield at center, Turcotte on left wing, and Kaliev, who likes to play on his off wing because he likes to do that little toe and drag to the center of the ice and release that wrister. Potent first line for us. What do you think about that to start the season? As potentially we could see it to start the season in the A this year, and we saw it a little bit, and it worked quite well last year.
I'm so torn on that because the more and more and more I get into this off season, the more and more, and I want Arthur Kaliev to make the roster in Los Angeles. I mean, and listen, Byfield too, for that matter, I suppose. But it just seems like, and I actually, Scott at Hockey Royalty has made a couple of good points. I think I agree that, I don't know what much, I don't know how much more a year in the AHL. I mean, it's not going to hurt him, Arthur Kaliev, to work on his two-way game a little bit more. But for a team that is just anemic at 5-on-5 scoring, and I've been saying it for a while, and maybe I'm in the minority here. Maybe people think that the Kings top six looks really good. I don't. And I think they need that guy. They need that pure sniper on the wing with probably Kopitar. But, again, we've seen Danault's playmaking ability 5-on-5 is really, really good. So I think that's a guy that needs to be inserted into that top six. And now if you have him on one of the lines and Arvidsson, who's been a proven, I know it's been a few years, but he's been a guy that's pushed 30 goals, or scored 30 goals, and we hope that he pushes it this year. That's a lot of goals potentially that we didn't have a year ago. Kings didn't have a year ago. So it would be extremely exciting to see them play together as a line again in the AHL. But the more and more I'm thinking about this offseason, I'm hoping Kaliev's the guy that gets the call, I'll be honest, because I think they're desperately missing that guy.
Yeah, like kind of to react to 2 points that you made. I think it's going to be nice to see them as a line for multiple reasons. Maybe not to start the AHL, just in this tournament. One, Turcotte dominated the one day that he was at the first camp, and then had to have the surgery. Byfield, his feet and everything like that were giving him fits, and so they, it was just a couple days on the ice, something that's not really important. But now they're playing against guys that other first round picks. They're playing against other people who are their team's top prospects. And so it's kind of like a little like where are they at compared to them? Like everybody's saying Turcotte made huge strides. So like where are they at in there? And then, I personally want to see does Byfield look like he's dominating people out there, which he should. Like if he's going to be our third C, he should be dominating, especially with another first round pick and Kaliev, who should have been a first round pick that slipped in the second round. That line should be dominating people for the whole tournament. And like that's what I want to see. I want to see them handle their own business.
What's I like about that line too is they all bring a little bit something different. I think they all complement each other very well. I mean, you look at the wheels that Turcotte has. He's got great speed, really good hands, kind of electric type of offensive player. Byfield is that big, just again, obviously we're saying this as if it all happens, but that big Anze Kopitar-esque, just dominant 200-foot centerman that's just your anchor up and down the ice. And then you have your sniper in Kaliev. They all do things a little bit differently, so I don't think it's too much of a surprise that they kind of blend together really, really well. So yeah, I mean, obviously I was jumping a little ahead there, but in this tournament, man, I think I completely agree that you hope to see them. Like this is a line that you expect. They had some time together last year. I hope that they dominate. I mean, they had time together last year at the AHL level that, you hope that that's enough that in a game setting, kind of this type of tournament like this, that they're able to really show that they're ahead of their competition.
Yeah, I think you look at like they're playing Arizona, Vegas, and I think Colorado, and Arizona and Vegas don't really have the prospect pools that we have. Colorado has a couple guys that are really high end, but are they gonna? I didn't look at their roster if they're even bringing those guys like Bowen Byram, who played for Colorado last year. Like, is he even going? So it's like the competition. There is going to be higher end prospects there, but our prospect pool should be better. We have a lot of guys that were like in the top 50 for the Athletic, and so like I just think that. Well, I think the whole line was in the top 50 for the Athletic, so I think like that line should dominate, and then you just want to see them take that stride. Like I want to see Turcotte build some confidence going into camp, because if you ultimately want Byfield, Turcotte, or Kaliev or Kupari to like go into camp and take a spot, like this is a nice step. It's not like the end all to be all, because the camp's going to play a big part, but like 3 games, what if Turcotte puts up 4 points in 3 games, You know what I mean? And like looks really good, plays solid defense, has that confidence after the surgery, and it's like, man, like I could make the squad. You know,
Yeah.
like or you know, you see on the power play, Kaliev puts 2 one-timers top shelf, and he's like, man, dude, my shot is sizzling right now. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that leads into camp and builds momentum. And as you know, with playing sports, it's a lot of confidence, right?
Sure.
And you're looking at guys that in they'll probably never say it, but it's like Byfield probably wished he had a better showing at the World Juniors last year. I mean, he did have 6 points all in the one game, but he's like, man, I wish I could have done better. I know Turcotte played well, but then had that injury, I think, and had that stuff going on in Wisconsin. So like having the confidence to come in now and then like put like some good ice minutes in a situation where they should, like it could be just what they need to come into camp and take one of those spots. Now, as far as them doing so, like what you said, I think there's already a lot of turnover in this roster. And so you could take that in one of 2 ways, right? You could say, hey, let's put these guys down to 8th right now. We have a lot of these extra forward spots. We're already bringing in Arvidsson. We're bringing in Deneau. We're bringing in Thachkev. We're seeing where all these lines build out. Like there's already so many puzzle pieces moving. Like why do we need 2 more puzzle pieces at this moment? Let's play 15 games or whatever to start the season. If it's not working, we can always bring these guys up, right? Or you say the other way you look at it is like, hey, there's already enough, there's puzzle pieces moving around everywhere. Let's just throw in all the puzzle pieces and let's just build it from the beginning. And, if Kaliev's better, Kaliev's better.
The talk this offseason from the Kings, from Rob Blake, has been playoffs, right? That's what he's been saying. They want to start to be a team that's contending for the playoffs and look to make the playoffs. If they think that, Adrian Kempe is going to produce at a top 6 level, okay. If you think Alex Iafallo is going to produce at a top 6 level, Dustin Brown is going to produce at a top 6 level, I think to expect all 3, I think is very wishful thinking. That's not to say that Kaliev's going to come right in and do it, but those guys, just where they are in their, Brown at the tail end of his career, Iafallo is a bit more on the defensive side of things, and Kempe, we've all been waiting for the consistency, and it just hasn't come. And none of them are what Kaliev is, anyways. None of them are that pure shooter. I mean, it's a piece that I just think that they really could use in the lineup. So, but it wouldn't surprise me, obviously, if they end up just kind of playing it a little bit slower. But the reason I'm kind of getting the itch a little bit is, hey, if we're going to be talking about playoffs, then we got to really start thinking about maybe doing some things a little bit differently and taking some chances, because what do you have to lose if you think about it? They've been one of the bottom teams in the league for a few years now. So trotting out, and I know we've added to the top 6 with Arvidsson and Deneau, but trotting out some of the other guys that have they really produced at the top 6 level, or is it really fair to expect Dustin Brown to produce at a top 6 level as he's 37 years old? Is that fair? I don't know. I mean, at some point it's going to not happen. So you have to be prepared for that. And I would rather be on the side of we're moving him down maybe a year early than a year late.
Yeah, I think I've been saying like the best player should play, but I don't have any like qualms with them saying like, okay, let's start the season with the guys that we have, unless like somebody just blows somebody out of the water at camp.
Sure.
Like, and just say, hey, let's start with the guys we have. Let's see if we can get some jam working. Leif Anderson had a good finish to the last year. Trevor Moore earned a contract. You have all these guys that are, where's Thachkev going to sit? You have where's Arvidsson, or is he going to be on the first or second line? And just kind of figure out some of those questions, and then be like, okay, what is working right now? Okay, do we need that Kaliev scorer? Do we really think that Velarde's more of a winger? Do we want to bring up Byfield? You know what I mean? And then go from there. Because like I said, I think once you bring Byfield up, he should stay up. Like that's the kind of how I feel about it, and I don't see anything wrong with waiting 10 games. Now the selfish part of me, seeing them in Dallas, I'd like to see him to start the season, but
Right.
I don't see anything wrong with it now, because I think there's so many what ifs, right? There's a lot of things like, okay, if Deneau plays better and he takes a lot of the defensive zone faceoffs that normally Kopitar would take because he's a Selke candidate, Kopitar can feel free to play more of his offensive game? Does he go from a 70 to 80 point player to a 90, 95 point player? Does Arvidsson help him in that get him above 90 points again? I really think that he likes playing with Iafallo, and I wouldn't mind that. Like if he's focusing more on his offense, Iafallo can be the guy in the boards to go dig all that stuff out and play the tough role of fishing the puck and back checking and forechecking and all that. Like I wouldn't mind that. I also wouldn't mind him, playing with Deneau, but then I'm like, okay, you got two defensive guys there. Like, where's more of the offensive jam? So it just depends, and I think they're going to throw those guys around. I really would like to see from what your point is saying is like, who are our best dynamic offensive players? And obviously we haven't seen him yet, but Vladimir Thachkev is, Victor Arvidsson is, Deneau is one of the best assist guys on the market. Obviously Kopitar. So like, can we find? We hear coaches about this say all the time, like, okay, a line doesn't need to work, but I just need to find a good pair. And then all you need to do with the pairs jamming, then you just filter in that third until you get a whole line to click, right? So first find a pair that are clicking and then find that last piece, not try to move the whole line around. So like, if Arvidsson clicks better with Deneau, then that's fine. The second line plays just as many minutes as the first line, except for special teams and stuff like that. And Victor Arvidsson should be on the power play. And so then you go, okay, then we need a scorer on the top line. Is that going to be Thachkev? Like he played top line minutes in Russia. So like, yep. I think there's just a lot of stuff going around there. Like what do you feel, or do you feel it's like, hey, they just need Kaliev. He can play third line minutes where he's not a defensive liability, put him on the power play and let this guy just rocket some pucks and we'll deal with his defense.
So here's kind of what I'd like to see, if I'm being honest. Like, so we all know Gabe Vilardi is going to be a winger. He has to be. It's Kopitar, Deneau, Byfield at some point this season. Okay, yeah. So let's just do it right away. So what would be, you have a player who's transitioning to the wing. In theory, you'd also have Byfield, who's now going to get he's going to get thrown into the fire as third line center. I mean, a veteran, good two-way, but especially defensive winger and Iafallo with those two, I think would be a really solid third line. And you can put you can keep that pair of Kopitar and Brown together. They played together for so long. And you can have Kaliev play with Kopi and Brown. Brown can play both wings effectively. And I think then you have, if you want to stick with Kempe and give him that shot, which I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the look, I guess, if this is how you want to play it. And then you've got your Arvidsson, Deneau, and Kempe line. I think that's an interesting way for me. And again, who knows how they've got things penciled out, but I would love to see something like that. It's different, it's fresh, it's new, it's an influx of talent, and I think it slots guys a little bit better. I mean, Iafallo, again, me saying that I don't know if he's going to produce at a top six, level doesn't mean I dislike the player. I'm a big fan of his, but for a team that's just really desperate for 5-on-5 scoring, I would love to see him see if he can kind of help guide Vilardi and Byfield along, be that kind of veteran guy on that third line, and let Kaliev see if he can become a sniper on the top line. That's kind of where I would like to see it. He's a player that the Kings don't have. We don't have Arthur Kaliev.
Yeah, I saw about that. And I talked to my brothers a little bit about it too, and I think we kind of thrown around line combination like we're doing now, and we kind of going about. I was like, who has some good jam that was a little bit injured and maybe could be an underrated guy would be Athanasiou, and like he's got that speed. Byfield can keep up with him for the most part, and then you have that veteran in Athanasiou and Brown, winging Byfield. So I thought that was kind of interesting because he does, Athanasiou has that scoring touch.
There's just so many bodies, and at both levels in the NHL and the AHL, because there's so many. I mean, we're gonna have to wait till some of the dust settles.
Yeah. So going into maybe potential second lines here, just kind of looking at this roster here, you have Pinelli, who balled out at camp. You have Tyler Madden, who showed out really well. Martin Chromiak, who a lot of people say that he was the fastest guy on the ice. And you have Samuel Fagemo. So, and Rasmus Kupari. So like the second line, could be a little bit of mix there. I tend to lean maybe Kupari and kind of see what Pinelli can do, and then maybe put Fagemo or Madden on the other side, or have Madden center the third line.
I'd love to see Pinelli just play with a guy like Kapari. I think that would be fun to watch, just to see how the skill blends together. Yeah, Madden was one of the guys that I'm most interested in watching the rest of this offseason too, just because he's had a little rough luck, right? He had the injuries he had last year. He had a finger surgery also, and I think he's got to start to establish himself somewhere, and I think he can. But I don't know. I think he's got to figure out what his identity is going to be, because I don't know that it's going to be in a top six role at the NHL level. So how he looks here, and so I'm not necessarily looking for him to light the lamp or anything here, because I don't think that's his game. It's going to be that translate to the NHL level. I think he's a guy that can be a really solid third / bottom six, maybe can spot in the middle if need be. But I think that's going to kind of be where his game evolves to. He's smart. He's got a good release, good shot. But I think that's where he's going to settle. So I want to see how he looks kind of in that type of role, Madden that is, in this weekend's camp, or excuse me, in this weekend's tournament.
Yeah.
And as far as that second line, I mean, like I said, Kapari, I'd love to see him paired with Pinelli. I like to see Kapari and Fagemo together. I think that's a good duo. So some really exciting options there to see how they do there.
It'd be kind of interesting is Pinelli's played center his whole life. He said he can play wing, but he's pretty much played center his whole life. And everything out of the rookie session that they had said that he made all the right plays all the time. And it was something that's the scouting report by a lot of people outside the Kings who thought very highly of him didn't really match up with what they were saying. He was pretty much dominant, had a phenomenal shot, made the passes when he needed to, made the shots when he needed to. I wouldn't be opposed to him centering the third line, and he was a driver at that camp, and see if he can drive in a real atmosphere with guys like Chromiak, and maybe you put let's see, maybe you do Chromiak and Madden, or Chromiak and Fagemo, and just kind of see, put a shooter, or he's a good shooter, maybe put a facilitator like Aiden Dudas that has some 200-foot game that's a pest and could set him up. I think that'd be interesting to see if the second round guy has that center skills that you hope that he would have, and not just assuming that he'll play wing based on who we have in the organization.
Yeah, and you can put him in, and it's a game situation, obviously, in these tournaments. But it's at the same time, especially for a player like that, where the expectations right off the hop aren't necessarily that high. It's a little bit of a lower pressure, you could say. Yeah, I guess it's easy for me to say sitting in my basement, but you can kind of see a little bit of what you got. A player that I'm going to throw out at you that I did a preview on, and just kind of doing a little bit of digging, really. I think there's something there. Although he's coming off a shocker, another rain forward coming off an injury. Johan Sodergren is a guy that I think has a legitimate chance to be like a third line NHL player. Like I mentioned that with Madden, but I think Sodergren's better suited for it. He already has that relentless on the forecheck, will be first on the back check. He's a big body at 6'3". He's a winger that loves to shoot, but he's not a perimeter player. He's going to play in the middle of the ice. He's going to go to the dirty areas. He's very smart. He'll go to the middle of the ice after he'll dish the puck. He'll go to the slot area. Like he knows where to go without the puck. He knows where to go to draw defenders. I think he's a smart player. I think he shoots the puck a lot. I think he's a winger that is obviously something that the organization kind of is in need of too. But I think with his size, and he's got some ability too, I want to see how he looks coming off his injuries. He had his first year in North America, and was a couple years ago with the rain, and then was probably set to come back. But with the pandemic, he ended up staying in Sweden. They loaned him to Sweden, so he played out there. Then he got hurt. So it's been really, really rough for him. So I just want to see, where his development is at this point after the injury, and then not being able to come back to North American play. But he's a player that he's probably at least a year away. But I think there's a third line future here for Sodergren.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to end up doing with him. I know he's 6th round pick. came over here last year, was supposed to play in the AHL. They have him on loan, with Hockey Alvanskin a little bit last year, before the injury. So, I don't know if they went back and forth what they planned for him to come in. But yeah, like having a bigger body, like we have a lot of these small skill guys other than, Byfield is bigger and skilled, but they've been drafting Hellenius. You got the guy that's 6'7", Nikita. Yeah, the young giraffe. And so like you have these bigger guys, and like you need those, by the three-time Stanley Cup champion Pat Maroon, like you need those physical guys as well as the skillful guys, and you want to see where he is after the injury. I don't know how if he's 100% healed. I know he played in the little rookie, or if he's not, or if they're just inviting him to get some practice time and see if he can play. But it'd be interesting to see how he slots in, and how much jam he has after the injury. Like where is his where's
that's
the
a big part of his game. It was a part of his game. Like he wasn't just this pure finesse winger by any means. He's very physical. He loves to get after it. And you want to see, like you said, coming off a back injury, how is that still? I mean, he's checking in at 6'3", 205. So he's willing to go to those areas and play a physical game, but also be somebody that he has talent. He's got a hockey brain and he's got talent. So I don't know that the ceiling is necessarily super high in terms of like a top six winger, but not everybody can be a top six winger. You have to have the style of play that can play up and down the lineup, and I think Sodergran has that. So I'm really excited about watching him this weekend and in the camp, and then we'll see what happens and what they decide to do with him for the upcoming season. But hopefully it's with the Reign, because he's going to be an interesting prospect. I actually, in the piece I did with that, I had some questions for Sixten Funquist, the writer over in Sweden, and he thinks, obviously the back injury is a question mark and how he responds from it, but with how physical he is, he's a big body and he has offensive ability, that he thinks he's a potential NHL player, 22, 23 season. So it's an interesting player.
Yeah, it was how much roster turnover we have, and then you don't really know the development from year to year. It is interesting to see who's going to slot in, because ideally you don't want to spend money for a bottom six guy. You'd like to have some of our prospects come in and take those next season, and so that he's definitely an interesting one there. I kind of like that. I kind of like that to where a lower round draft pick, lower round draft pick. Similar to one guy that's not coming to camp, but has scored his first Liga goal today, Atu Jamson, right? Coming back from injury, like we said, got the goal in the apple. So he's a 7th round pick, and he's showing a lot of swag out there. And it'd be nice, like when you get those guys that you don't have any expectations for, like when Matt Roy came out of nowhere, or you sign a guy from college and he has he's been phenomenal between the pipes, and Cal Peterson. Like those are the jumps that level your team up, right? Because obviously you want we want Quentin Byfield to play 1,000 games. We want Turcotte to play 1,000 games. But during those 1,000 games, they're going to have many teammates that only play 99, play 50 here, 100 here, 200 here, and you still need those those guys like Trevor Lewis, like Kyle Clifford, like like those guys to help win championships, that come in and are part of your team for 2 or 3 seasons. And Johan has something that not a lot of our higher end prospects have, or even on the Reign. Like he has that grit. Boko Mama was that guy, and he could have that grit and have that scoring touch and be a bigger body, because you can't just you just can't have the small guys all the time. No, you're fine.
Right, and I think that maybe one of the bigger things that and I'll leave it with this and see what you think, but I talked about Tyler Madden, who used to being kind of that, not that he doesn't play with that edge to his game, but it's a little bit tougher at 5'11", 155, that he's going to have to learn to adapt and play a little bit of a different role maybe than he did in college, where I think Sodergran's already playing that game. He's playing against men over in Sweden. He's playing that physical style. He's physically a more mature body, that I think he doesn't have to necessarily change anything in his game to still be an effective third line player, where I think Tyler Madden may still have some adapting to do, and it could even involve the position switch. So that's kind of where I'm going with that with Sodergren.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of something that one of my coaches told me, and he said, like, sometimes you have that one elite trait, and instead of trying to work on all the stuff that you're really bad at, just you're already elite at this thing, be more elite at it, because that's going to be your ticket into getting ice time. And when you listen to like Unetti's talk and everything about these later round draft picks, he's saying, hey, we're going to get this guy is going to have hopefully one elite trait. He needs work at everything else, or he has two above average traits, and like that trait is going to be the thing that gets him to the league. Like you look at Atu Jamson, his trait is like his playmaking in his hands is ridiculous for 7th round pick. He needs to work on his skating, he needs to work on his physicality, his size, and everything like that. So like those players, take longer to gestate, but they have one elite trait. And with Sodergren, it's like his grit and his hockey IQ is what's could get him to be a 3rd, 4th line player for over 99 games, over 200 games. And if you just kept consistently work on that, consistently work on the back check, being that grit guy and defensively be sound all the time, that could lead to being in situations and earning ice time on the PK to help you crack that lineup.
Yep. There's a 30-second piece in the clip in the piece I did on him. And this was from a few years ago, but if he's doing those type of things at that age, like he's not performing as if he's above the level, or he's first in on forecheck, first in on back check, creating turnovers, leading to goals. He's doing those little things at that age, at that level overseas. How it translates, we'll see. And he's coming off an injury, so we'll see. But there's so many parts of this game that I think are already there that it's, again, interesting player.
Yeah, I think other players that come to mind with those kind of those kind of abilities, and then Unetti said it for this draft was Kirill Karasanov. He said he's already a pro player over in Russia, and like what makes him a good player, he's already very good at it. And so he wouldn't be surprised if they saw Kirill before Brandt Clarke, before Francisco, because he's going to be a shutdown defender, and he already does that really well. They're not going to rely on him for offensive support. They're going to rely on him to be a juggernaut on the defensive end, and he's already really good at that. So they could see him potentially being over here playing higher minutes earlier than a higher end prospect, because what they're going to be relied on at the NHL level, they're already good at.
And you probably just summarized where I was trying to say with Sodergren, is where he's going to be slotted in at the NHL level he's probably slotted in as a bottom 6 anyway. So it's not as if they need him to do anything much more than he's doing. And to your point, and these guys that are playing in pro leagues overseas, like they may be already doing some of those things. So maybe in their development for where the team sees them, they're a little bit further ahead. Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Kirill come over. I know like getting players over for Russia for a 3-game tournament really isn't ideal. But keep a good eye on him this year and see where he kind of slots out. Speaking of defensemen though, we got some notable ones coming over, some high-end draft picks and some, defensemen of the year with Jordan Spence, and the high-end draft pick being Brandt Clarke and Helge Grans are both coming over. Obviously everybody's beaming about Brandt Clarke because he's making play after play in this rookie little scrimmages they had over there and the camp session. He's beaming in every single interview. And then when you talk about defensemen that really are able to take over a game offensively, like the Cale Makars of the world and everything like that, like you as a fan can't help but extrapolate what that could be or could mean for your team. But I'm, as much as I am, super excited about Brandt Clarke, I'm most interested in Helge. And, 2nd round pick, a lot of people, or not a lot, but there were some out saying that he's, a Rasmus Dahlin light. He barely missed the World Junior team, that had a stout defenseman core by one person. I think they literally cut him at the airport. And, it was just kind of sad to see that go and everything like that. And having him already have played pro in Sweden, coming over here, playing probably on the right side, and playing against guys that are, you know, at his age group when he's used to playing against men, seeing like where is he at in his advancement? Does he show that offensive skill that he's supposed to have? Is he going to be able to get some power play time? Like, where do you kind of see him at? And like, because he could start on the third line for the Reign and work his way up because he does have that talent. So what do you see from him in your eyes? And like, what's most intriguing to you about him?
That's, you know, that's a really good question, because I'm wondering that myself, and I've done some previews on a couple of the Reign defensemen already, in Austin Strand and Sean Dursey, and I actually just did Jordan Spence going to be coming out tomorrow, and Helge Grans is coming up next too, probably within the next week or so. So I'm trying to see where does he fit, because the right side of the Kings defense group is pretty clogged. There's a lot of bodies there, and where are they all going to fit? And I want to see, this is going to be a big weekend tournament for Helge. And I haven't, in fairness, I'll be interested and fun to do a kind of a deeper dive on him when it comes time to do his preview, because I haven't had a chance to have a really long extended look at some of his tape and some of his games to see how he slots. But for me, I think I think the Reign will probably start off with something like pick your order, but Dursey and Strand, I think, are at this point probably have quote unquote earned. They're going to probably be in those top 4 role mix at least. And you could see Grans and Spence kind of battling it out for that third spot.
I think they'll probably slot together. I think one person will have to play out of position. Yeah, because you don't want to, like you said, you want to get your draft picks enough time. And I just think with him being, you know, a point per game player in the U20 Super Elite League, and then playing in the SHL last year and having 12 points in 43 games, you know, had a good season for a young kid up there and playing for Malmo. And so you got that opportunity for him to play some big minutes. And on this squad, you'll probably have Jersey Phillips for the tournament. You'll probably have Jersey Phillips there, kind of have that veteran, you know, going on there. Then you probably have Brant Clark with either maybe Jordan Spence will play the left side, or maybe they'll see if Brant Clark wants to play the left. But, you know, then you have Helge Grans and, you know, a couple of camp invitees. So, you know, if he's paired by himself, or if he's really by himself with a camp invitee, does he look way better than that other player? Does he show out and show that it has been kind of under the radar because he's been in Europe? And, you know, most of our high-end prospects as of late have been Canadians or Americans. So like, is he like not really getting that pub that you would normally get if he was over here for the American fans? That's kind of my thing. Like, obviously I'd love to see Brant Clark show out and see his offensive expertise. But being that we're going to be covering the Reign and all that, I kind of want to see what Helge has to offer, and if I think he can make that push up the lineup this year.
Yeah, me too. And it's like I said, it's going to be competitive, particularly on that right side. So we'll see how it all ends up shaking out, and if one of those guys does end up moving on and playing on the left side, because they're starting to build up that defense group, right? Aren't they? You know, they drafted Clark. Grans is a year closer now. Spence is coming in. You're probably going to have to, like, we're just going to put it out there right now to you. It's going to be your job, because the people that listen to the show are probably going to get sick of hearing it. But I have a feeling.
Oh, Rob Blake listens, and he's going to hear this. So let's just throw it out there.
I have a feeling I'm going to be like a Sean Dursey homer like all season. I can see that happening. He's the type of guy that I gravitate toward as a defenseman. Kind of more modern day, not tiny, but smaller, but skates so well, moves the puck so well, can quarterback a power play, smooth skater. Like, I'm really excited about what he brings, and I think he's kind of flying a little bit under the radar right now, because
he's definitely an afterthought of that Toronto trade,
right? Yeah,
because Grundstrom's already been playing with the Kings, right? So like, he just kind of been that afterthought of that trade.
Well, he has been, and I think he had a pretty good run last year, and
Yeah, 39 points, 4 goals, 16 assists for games played. Sorry, 39 games played, 4 goals, 16 assists for 20 points. So like,
and I'm pretty sure he led the Kings, the Reign in power play assists, and he was in the top 10 in assists overall for defensemen. This is a legitimate playmaker. He can skate well, so I'm not necessarily looking forward for this weekend, but just where a guy like a Helge Grans and Jordan Spence, where do they slot in? Because I know Austin Strand's not going to be here this weekend, but he's probably going to play for the Reign this year, so he's in there too. He's in that mix. So there's bodies there. Whether Strand is a future guy in the Kings' eyes, perhaps I doubt it, but he's here right now, and he's somebody that guys like Spence and Grans are going to have to beat out, right, to win a job.
Yeah, I think with Durzi being the oldest player at this tournament, it looks like besides one of the goalies, from my quick glance here, you want to see that veteran leadership. You want to see him out there, quarterback in the defense. And part of our 5-on-5 struggles as the Kings and as the Reign have been, getting that help from the defense. Like we didn't really have Drew Doughty was the only person that's really scoring. Sean Walker came on towards the end of the season. So where are we going to get some of that 5-on-5 push, that 5-on-5 jam coming up coming from the backside, the blue line? It's going to be from some of these guys. And, if Durzi shows up this year, you might see him come up and be that 7th rotational guy next year. And, he has that, something to earn because, he was he was acquired from Toronto. I believe he was still a high pick. I think another 2nd-round pick, right?
He was a 2nd-round pick, yeah.
So like he has some jam too. It's the same thing with like Kale Clegg. Like a lot of these 2nd-round guys, Helge Grans, 2nd-round guys. Brock Faber's a 2nd-round guy, even though he's not coming in this tournament, he's going to college.
There's another one, right?
So like you're gonna have a lot of these 2nd-round defensemen coming in that are good players, and they say iron sharpens iron, but where does Durzi fit in? And I think maybe it just took him a little bit longer to get his feet underneath him, and maybe he'll have another juggernaut offensive season. It'd be nice to see that.
Yeah, I mean he's still only 22 years old too, so and again he's not a tiny defenseman at 6 foot 185, but he's certainly not big by any means. But when you skate like he does, you can hide a lot of that stuff. So for me, what I want to see with, we'll say Durzi, since we're talking about him, is he's a really good playmaker. He skates very well. He can quarterback a power play. I want to see how he is, and I noted this in the piece, specifically in transition, like the transition from as the play shifts from offense to defense, and he's got pro guys skating at him. I think that's where I want to see how he handles. Like I envision, like, and maybe this is a little unfair, he's one of the best players in the league, but like as much as I like Sean Durzi, he's not ready to have like Nathan McKinnon coming down on him yet, right? These elite, these high end, high pace, powerful skaters in the NHL. Like I want to see him develop this year to be able to handle an NHL winger coming down on him at speed and transition, because I think that's where part of his game could be to be improved. But a lot to like there with him going forward.
So with you just doing the Jordan Spence piece, like what was your biggest takeaways from that? Like what do you really like about his game, and where do you think that translates into the NHL level eventually?
So, I was like really, it was a tough one because I'm trying to figure out just that, like where do I see him slot in? And the biggest thing I had in watching some videos, like, man, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm missing something. I don't see, he is not anywhere near ready from a skating standpoint, in my non-professional opinion. And I actually, in looking, there's some, Corey Pronman noted that in his athletic piece. He had him at the bottom of his article there of the
Organizational
pipeline. Yeah, exactly. The pipeline there, and he had him as kind of as a chance to play. And Durzi was down there with him actually. And there's questions about, Spence's skating. Just makes me nervous. As an undersized, because he is a little bit smaller than Durzi is he has playmaking ability. Okay. And I think when he's in the offensive zone, he's dangerous. if that makes sense. Like when the play's in and set up, he can make runs.
Yeah, you saw that at the World Junior. He was in the perfect spot and sniped that hit for his only goal.
He sees the play in front of him develop. He jumps into the area and he can make himself available. I think he's very good at that. I think in the offensive zone, but I think right now he's only 20, so it's not exactly like it's not saying he can't do it, but I want to see how this weekend, and this is a great weekend for it, how he handles the skating as he goes up in levels. I think what I said in the piece was if his skating doesn't take the next level as he goes up in levels, then it's going to be hard for him to progress. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's like an abysmal skater or anything like that. It's just there's enough questions already that it gives me pause for somebody of his size to have a question mark like this. In zone, you can see it. Passing, playmaking, hockey IQ, you can see him on a power play. The rest of his game he's probably going to be a bit of a work in progress.
You know, and I heard this for Brant Clark because that was his biggest thing is like his skating isn't elite like Cale Makar's, but his offensive ability, his instincts are. And the scout said, like, you can't, like, your natural reaction, your gut reaction that happens in a millisecond, it's very hard, if almost impossible to teach that, but there are skating coaches galore. And so, like, if now that he's going to be in the Kings organization and not in Canada, like, that could be his biggest jump this season as the season goes along.
Exactly. I said exactly that. Now he's here. He's with the Kings organization. It's up to their development staff to see if they can mold him into kind of a more well-rounded defenseman and that's okay. He's 20, right? He not everybody has to be ready to go and contend for an NHL spot at 20, 21 years old. So it's okay. But I think there's an offensive mind here. There's an offensive brain. There's offensive ability with his hands and his shot. If the skating improves, then you've got a guy that can be an offensive threat, maybe in a mid to bottom pair, but getting maybe power play 2 minutes type of thing.
Yeah, and so like you think about it, and that's great that you said that, because I think a lot of fans have to just like taper your expectations in general for what a prospect is, and everybody's development path is different. And we talk about this like in our hockey royalty chat all the time, like, and we've talked about it in this pod, like what we expect, our higher end prospects to be. And reality is, like, just based on my basic deep dive, like from age 21 under, there was only an average of 1.45 players per team that were under 21. So like, that was just a quick dive. So like, if somebody wants to fact check me, then go ahead and spend your time doing that. But for me, it's like, that just proves that like not every player, even if they're top 5 or top 10, are able to shoulder that load. And even if they are in the league, they struggle. Like, I think everybody's assumed Capo Caco, the guy that everybody wanted the Kings to go to, would have had a better career so far, especially playing with high-end elite centers like Zibanejad. Like, he should have had a better career so far in his first 2 years, and he struggled a little bit. So, like, that's why I'm not like, okay, if Byfield isn't on the roster day one, I'm freaking out. I'm ready to let him, if he plays 10 games in the A and comes up, great. So like for Jordan Spence, it's like, you couldn't have asked for a better start to his career, right? Defensive rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, made the World Junior team. Like, Canada had all first round picks besides him and one other guy. Like, he's a 4th round guy. Even the fact that he made the roster with how stacked the World Junior team was is a testament to him. Scored 1 goal in the only game that they let him play. And then now he's coming over here. It's like, there hasn't been an award or an accolade that he hasn't won so far. And, it's like, I think that the sky's the limit for him. And especially for a guy his size, and being able to drive the points from the defensive side is something that helps out the offense. And it allows them to make more plays. Like, you look at guys like we were talking about, Sodergran, that likes to play around the net. Spence is going to shoot those shots. He's going to use his body to get those rebounds and get those dirty pucks and right in the crease. And like, those are the types of goals that you need, even though everybody likes the snipe shows and the behind the back passes and everything like that. It's like, a lot of the goals are dirty and players doing things that they need to do to score, and having that offensive ability. It's going to be up to him. And from what we've heard, I think he's up to the task of improving that part of his game.
He recognized it. He said it in the development camp after in some of the pressers that he said that he knew, he's looking to add weight. He's put some weight on. He said that he was working with Matt Green and the development guys there with the Kings. They're really focused on his defensive game. He more or less said, don't worry about, we're not working on your offensive game. We're really literally only going to work on your defensive side of the game because, again, in zone, he's fine. It's the other two zones where he needs work. But again, he's 20. If he's not ready to play in the NHL till 23, that's okay.
Yeah. And we'll reiterate this all the time. Scouts and Unetti says this all the time. Elite skills get you to the league, and then you have to round out your game to stay in the league. And so his elite offensive ability is going to get him in the league, and then it's just going to be up to him if his skating and his defensive ability can allow him to stay and play over the 99 or 200 game threshold.
Something else I'll say too, I hear it a lot in baseball podcasts with certain players, and I completely agree with it. That prospect growth is not linear. You are going to, it's a hat tip to Paul Sporer for anybody that listens to Fangraphs, but it's not linear. And these kids, especially in hockey, where some of these guys are coming from overseas, some of these guys are playing different leagues, and now we're coming off the past 2 seasons that have been interrupted by a pandemic. So the development's going to be all over the map. So again, there's no, just again, in talking about Spence, if at 20 years old, if he's not ready until he's 23, 24, that's okay. Because some guys, and I know, and you heard this a lot. I used to hear this a lot growing up, and I guess I actually don't know. There's probably been studies on this if it actually is true that defensemen take longer to develop. It wouldn't surprise me, but everybody always talks about Victor Hedman, it took him some time, and Rasmus Dahlin over in Buffalo has had some growing pains. So it's okay that some of these guys take a bit of time. It's okay.
Yeah. So lastly, I go to the goalie core, and we know that I was a big proponent of wanting to take a goalie in the first round. Obviously ecstatic for Brandt Clarke, but I thought one of our deficiencies was the fact that a lot of our goalie prospects didn't really have a good season last year. They haven't really you haven't really seen one where you're pointing a finger at, and obviously, like you said, growth isn't linear. So maybe it's just growing pains of adjusting the leagues, especially for goalies. Yeah. But Lucas Parikh being a 3rd rounder, Jacob being a 6th rounder, but having more games at higher levels for the Swamp Rabbits, and then Parikh really just playing in the USHL last year. So kind of seeing those two guys, I would like to see, I'm sure with just the 3 games, they're bringing 3 goalies, but I'm sure they'll either play Ingham twice or Parikh twice, or maybe they'll let Lettinen play 1 game too. Who knows, since he came there, or maybe they'll do split games where it'll be 2 periods of 1. Who knows with these camps and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
But I would like to see how he looks. You got Parikh who's 6'4", Ingham who's 6'4". They're both around 190. So bigger goalies than what some of the ones that other teams have, and hadn't seen how well they move. And I was really impressed with the game that Parikh had in the World Juniors. I know that his team that he was with wasn't very good, so they got slaughtered, but he did pitch a shutout in one of the games. And
I remember that game. Yeah. I'm probably, oh man, this maybe isn't fair. I'm probably most quote unquote excited about Parikh, I guess. And it's not necessarily, I don't want to take too much away from Villalta or even Ingham, I guess, for that matter. But man, I'll be honest, if there's one thing kind of going back and rewatching some tape from rain games from this past season, just doing some of these previews and stuff, I'm seeing a lot of goals, Randall, and not good ones. It was rough. It was rough last year.
What are those infomercials? It reminds me of one of those infomercials where they have the boat and they slap the tape on it to stop it from leaking. That's what it felt like. Yeah, Flexio. That's what it's felt like all year. And I don't want to take anything away from any of the goalies. I'm just intrigued, right? So 2 new guys. We didn't really get to see much of Ingham. We haven't seen anything of Parikh. Is Villalta just taking a little bit longer? I mean, he's not coming to this little shindig that we have going on, but I'm just kind of intrigued. Do they take the opportunity, even though it might be 1 game, and it's going to be unfair to say 1 game defines them or whatever, but getting that, like we said with other guys, getting that momentum Dude, if you pitch a good game in this tournament, you go into camp, get yourself feeling good, and then you go into the rain camp, like building up momentum could be something there. And I think with me not really having any expectations for Villalta, Ingham, or Parikh, I'm just kind of interested based on draft capital from the Parikh standpoint on, I mean, I know Villalta was a high pick as well, or a higher pick, but I'm kind of interested in seeing what Parikh brings to the table and if he can kind of push from the back, or if he's just going to be with the Swamp Rapids as well.
I mean, my hope still with Villalta is he's young. He's 22 years old, but our guy Ryan Sykes did a goaltending depth chart there on the site, and this is kind of alarming. He had 18 starts in the regular season last year. Half of them he allowed 4 goals or more. I obviously understand not everything's the goalie's fault. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of pucks going in the rain net last year. So, what this does for me, and I don't know, this maybe sound a little alarmist, and I don't mean to, but Cal Peterson better work, right?
Well,
this better be the guy, and he better stay healthy because there ain't anything behind him.
Well, this season you're gonna have Quick, but for me, you can always
I'll keep with that. In fairness, I again love him what he's done for the organization, but his game is not what it was. Yeah. So they better be right with Peterson. Well, I think they are. Don't get me wrong, but there's not a lot of wiggle room here.
Okay, well, let's go straight into this little game I just coming up with the top of my head. Let's play over under. Over under 50 starts for Peterson.
Ooh. I want to say over. Well, I'm going to say it better be over. Over.
I hope it's over too. Over under 50 games for Quinton Byfield.
Over.
Okay. Over under, we'll go 50 as well for your guy Kaliev.
If it's under, I'm calling Rob Blake.
Yeah. Get him on it. With the new goal scoring in Arvidsson, over under 25 goals.
Good number. You know what? I'm going to be an optimist. I'm going to say over.
If I would have said 20 goals, if I would have said 20 goals, you would have punched the over instantly. So I bumped it up a little bit.
Yes, 25 is a very fair number. I can see right in that mid-20s range.
Okay, and then with Kopitar having more offensive leeway this year with Danault, can he get back over under 85 points?
I'm going to say under, and that's not a slight. It's just regardless of what was added, with Danault, his game is just, he's not somebody, and this is a heavy word. He's not going to cheat to change his game and be more offensive. He has built a career on being a 200-foot player, and that's just not going to change. Now, maybe he doesn't have to play against the other team's top guys as much, so he has a little bit less time to spend in the D zone. I can see that, but I'm gonna say, I think it's a good number, but I'm gonna say under. Okay. I hope I'm wrong.
I just think look at the way they took a lot of defensive responsibility away from Brown last year, and it was able to get his legs underneath him to get him more goals. Sure. I think you kind of see that trickle down effect, and then he'll have him play with an actual scoring winger. And the optimism in me of us making the playoffs, I think if he needs to score over 85 for us to do that.
And guys that are, Kopitar's in his mid-30s now. Let's not forget Brown is his upper 30s. He's about 37. So the kind of weird schedule and the way the pandemic and kind of affected everything, maybe in a weird way, extends their play as top. I mean, Kopitar, I'm not worried about being a top line player for the next few years, but Brown, maybe it extends him an extra year. That time off or that limited, not as many games is going to be good for the body. That could be something too.
Okay, and then we're going to go with pick your poison here. Who do you think leads the Reign in points next season?
Rasmus Kapari.
So you don't think he gets much jam up in the major level?
I don't, and that's the reason why I'm saying that. I don't think that is like, I don't think that's a horrible thing. If he does, great, and if he lighten it up and goes, great. But I'm going to say Kapari because I think Byfield, Kaliev. I think Byfield is going to be the center, not Kapari. Kaliev is the elite scoring winger, and I think those two guys are first. And I think, obviously it'll be either him or Turcotte are kind of that next guy. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I'm going to say Kapari.
I'm going to go with my man Turks. I think he needs.
Yep.
I think he's going to jam it out there. And I'm saying jam a lot. I must want a PB and J, a little Uncrustable or something. Midnight
right
snack.
Now, PB and J is highly underrated. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit.
I was listening. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I was listening to this podcast, and he's such a fan of Uncrustables, and I've never had one. And I was over at a buddy's house, and they had them, and I was like, on the podcast they recommend putting it in the microwave a little bit, get the peanut butter to where it's kind of gooey, and then it was delicious. It was like 500 calories, so it was like my whole dinner, but it was delicious.
Oh man.
So lots to look forward to, guys. So like I said, you can watch all these games online. If you are close to the area and want to go catch the games, the tickets are pretty cheap. Go for a weekend. Arizona is wide open for business, so go have some bars and restaurants and good food down there, and catch some hockey games. And then camp starts back up on the 23rd, I believe. So we're right around the corner. We're right around the corner, guys, and we're going to keep out more content like this. Hopefully we can get some more guests on. If not, Joe and I will gab your ear off as long as you will listen. So you can always go to hockeyroyalty.com. We're posting articles every single day, it seems like. I don't know how these guys don't have carpal tunnel on their fingers yet, but keep checking those out, and we're posting them on Twitter all the time. So follow us at hockey_royalty on Twitter and see all these new articles coming out. Get all the info on all these players, on the games coming up. And when the games start, I know I got my AHL TV package. I'll probably have to let you bum, my password because the fact that you just bought a new house. But we'll work something out so we can get these games going, and then we'll figure out the schedule then. I mean, I know that's down the line, but maybe a little post game, maybe, and we want to do some fan interaction with you guys. So maybe we'll do a Q&A. We'll post something on Twitter and get some questions from you guys next time as well. So it's been a pleasure, Joe, as always, and I look forward to seeing that glorious mug again soon.
I can't wait. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too, my man.